Hi, this is Karen Rainford here to talk to you about Chapter 5 in Project Management Jumpstart. What should you study in Chapter 5? Chapter 5 is all about scope and schedule and a little bit about roles. The first thing that you'll need to be able to do is to create a work breakdown structure. A work breakdown structure is really about what is part of the project. It's not about when things will be done. So when we create a list of everything that has to be delivered for the project to be completed, we're really talking about the project scope, which was defined in the previous chapter. But this is a graphical way of showing what that scope looks like. And it's organized by deliverable, not by due date, and it's all of the work in the project and only the work in the project, so the entire scope. Down at the lowest level of the work breakdown structure, we have something called a work package, and that's the very least, the very lowest level. So for example, something that might take a week and one person could do it, and might be our smallest level. Or on a smaller project, it might be something that takes a few hours and one person to do. Each one of the boxes in a work breakdown structure gets its own ID code. And that's so that we can track it both from a budget perspective and so that we know when it's done, we can track that it's been completed. There are several different ways that you can show a work breakdown structure. One way is the hierarchy view, which looks like an organizational chart, or the other thing is the outline view, and that looks more like a table of contents. After we know all of the deliverables that are going to be produced for a project, it's time to start talking about the tasks and activities that need to be completed in order to create those deliverables. So if we're talking about a noun, such as a report, that's a deliverable. But if we say writing the report or getting the report approved, those are verbs and those are activities or tasks. And one of the most important things that we'll do with tasks is talk about sequencing. Some tasks have to come before others, just in a logical sequence. And that's how project schedules are put together. One of the key elements that we can use to organize a schedule is a milestone. A milestone is a special kind of activity. An activity usually has a duration, but a milestone does not. So for example, I might say the report is completed. And I can say that when the report is completed, we are done with that part of the project. We are past that milestone. And so that's how we monitor progress. And milestones, of course, are very like milestones in your life. You're done with high school, you're done with college. Pretty soon, yay! The next part that happens in activities is determining how long each individual activity is going to take. There's a thought that we just simply say, well, we've got 6 months to do this project, so that's how long it will take. But that's not how formal project management works. In this case, for each one of those individual activities, we determine how long from the time that we start it until the time that we can finish it. And there are many different ways of estimating activity durations. We can talk to experts and say, actually, how long does it take to write a report? And one of those experts might say, I usually count on 10 hours per page. That's a type of parametric estimating where we determine a particular kind of measurement. Software development is typically a certain number of lines of code or objects in a certain time frame. Another piece that we have are task dependencies. It doesn't matter how long something will take if we can't start it until we've finished something else. And the majority of tasks that make a big difference, of dependencies that make a big difference in project management, are when we have to finish A before we can start B. I have to finish tying my shoes before I can start walking. And another type of dependency is a start to start. As soon as I start doing one thing, I can go ahead and start another thing as well. Those are the two most often used types of dependencies. Some that we seldom use are finish, where we can't finish task B until we finish task A. And also, we never use start-finish. What we usually find when we go to do a start-finish dependency is that we've actually flipped around backwards a finish-start dependency. Once we understand what the relationship is between any two particular tasks or activities, we can make a diagram that shows the relationship between all of the activities. We call this a network diagram, and the precedence diagramming network method is the method of choice. And people talk about activity on arrow or arrow diagramming methods, activity on node, and those are very seldom used in a regular day-to-day basis. And actually, doing network diagramming by hand in a big project is crazy, because every time you get everything figured out, something changes, and then you have to push everything. You have to look at all of those relationships and what it does to each individual one and recalculate all the way through. So generally, what we do is use Microsoft Project to do the calculations. And then if one project activity becomes longer, has a longer duration, everything after that might have to be pushed out. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about things that are on the critical path. Those are things that if it takes us any longer to do that, the project will be later than we thought it would be. There are other types of scheduling software as well, but Microsoft Project is probably one of the most frequently used. That's the end of Chapter 5. I did not talk about RAM or resource assignment matrix, because we'll talk about that in a later chapter. Take a look at the terminology and look at the review questions, and I will see you for Chapter 6.